Hello everyone. So today I'm making a video about installing some OEM clear taillights, so European style clear taillights, on my North American Mark 8 Golf R. It's a 2024 Golf R. I filmed this video about a year ago. I'm just editing it now in 2025. But here you can see I'm unboxing. These are OEM from Germany, proper part number. Taillights, and to accompany it I have a wiring harness from MK6ix. That's the website I bought it from. Mark 6. It's a Canadian supplier, really high quality harness, and I'm very happy with it. So yeah, taking a closer look at the harness, you can see it comes in 4 portions, which I think is awesome because it makes it way easier to feed it through. It's way more manageable in terms of installation, but also it's modular. Not only that, but the connectors are not attached by default, so you can thread them through a lot easier. So you can see there's the portions for all 4 lights, and then there's a main harness that connects them all. So here are the old taillights, just for comparison's sake. I wanted to take a video of how they look. Super basic, super boring. That's what we get here in North America. Now to start this off, here I am taking off some of the trim pieces. This trim piece on the hatch just pulls off. Super simple. You can see it's just clips, so nothing to be afraid of there. Similar story for these 2 pieces of trim on the side. I got a different video angle here just to show me removing them. You kind of have to do a sideways motion because there's a part that holds it in. I'd recommend watching or looking at the manuals to see how this comes off. I'm also taking off the trim pieces covering the tail lights in the rear hatch as well. So now I just have that one piece of trim left to remove. And so there's 4 bolts on this. Here I'm showing myself removing the first 2. I think these are T20s or T25s, maybe T30 at the most, but they're Torx bits. Yeah, so here you can see I'm kind of struggling to remove this main trim piece. That's because I did not realize that there were 2 more bolts holding it in. They're kind of tucked away near where your hand goes to pull the hatch down, so this is just me tinkering and struggling. It's important not to force anything though when you're removing trim pieces like this, so I always recommend checking the actual EKTA manuals or Irwin manuals or whatnot, because that's the only place you're going to see all of the bolt holes, and so that's what I referenced before I figured out what was going wrong. And here you can see now I'm removing the bolts from those pockets that I found the hard way. So there's one here and one here. So there are 2 sets of T20 or T25 screws to take out. You can see I have these out. And you have to remember these, and there are some in here. I didn't realize that. Luckily I didn't pull too hard. Too bad. So I did this off camera, but what I did is I slipped my finger underneath the headliner and through here, and I maneuvered the pick in, but I was really careful to feel basically with my finger that the pick was pushing on the tab. You can see like here, there's a tab and it needs to be pushed on. There's a little ridge. So there's a small area, probably like 2 millimeters wide, that you can slip the pick in and then kind of lever it to get it out. On my Mark 7, I refused to remove these, but with the headliner the way it is, I feel like I'm gonna crease it. I'm not taking out the top parts of the boots, but the bottom part was really easy. I used like 0 force, and these came out very easily. I probably, if these required force, I definitely would not be willing to do that, to take them out. The other thing I did is, so I have the MK6ix or Mark 6, whatever the heck, I'll link it, harness. However, there was an extra connector. I'm gonna show some pictures of it, but these connectors didn't work. I guess they require you to shave off one of these. I think it's this one of these little plastic things off the original harness. I will never do that. I hate modifying my original harness. So what I did is, because it was so hard to get in there, I used a soldering iron. I melted it off, and then I went in with a screwdriver while the plastic was still hot. So it looks a little ugly, but it's cleared out. And you know, the proper way to do this would be with a really, really narrow chisel. That would have made a much cleaner result, but I don't have that, and it's a weekend. And I also don't want to go buy like a $30 chisel that I'm never going to really use, because I have all the chisels I need, and none of them fit without taking off more than I wanted. So yeah, so that's that. What I'm going to do now is I'm running through these boots. So I'm using a long zip tie. You can see there's a zip tie in there. A zip tie like that. I'm going to use some tuck tape. And the nice thing about these harnesses is these connectors are pre-wrapped and the pins are not in. So there's 2 harnesses that need to come from the hatch into the central section, and then we'll get into doing this lower section once those harnesses are run. So here's what worked for me. I both pulled through the grommets. I removed this grommet. I didn't have to remove this grommet. I fed a zip tie through, and I was able to kind of finger it over, kind of catch it through this hole, or catch it as it, on this side I catched it as it came out of the opening, and then I pushed it this way, because otherwise it tends to go that way. And what I did is I used tuck tape. So tuck tape is very strong adhesive tape to hold the wires against the zip tie. And what I did is I used just a little bit silicone spray, and I mean a little bit, like literally as much as fit on the tip of my finger, just to lightly lubricate this tape joint. I used that and I slid it through, and I am telling you, by putting a little bit of lubricant on it, made it so much easier. I tried to do it without. I did this side with a lubricant and this side without, and I went back and I put just a little bit, and it made it 500 times easier. I'm telling you, that is the hack, and you do not need to use much. Like, I am really talking like, you know, half a grain of rice in terms of volume. Like, imagine a grain of rice, cut it in half, and use that volume of silicone spray. And that really, really helped. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these 2 tails out. I need to take these panels out, and I need to get some power from the 12-volt connector over there. So let's see how this works out. So you can see here, what I've done is I've connected the harness. I've run the harness cables through the grommet. It's pretty hard to get through this grommet, and there's some electrical tape you have to take off. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run these wires all the way up, and I'm gonna do the same thing on that side. And yeah, then everything should be connected. I have to move a fuse, and then we're all good. One other thing you have to do before doing these outer taillights is first you take the grommet out. This is pretty easy. You can just maneuver it out. Then there's a little bit of electrical tape going over the grommet and that. And what you can do is you can move this little bulb forwards and run the wire through. So I'll show how I end up doing that. So the MK6 harness, you'll notice there are pins that get pulled through, which is nice because it makes it super easy to pull it through grommets, such as these, like these small grommets, and even fish through here. I have to say, like, I have pulled harnesses with these same 3-pin connectors on before, and it sucked. So what you have to do is you just have to insert the pins into the harness ends and complete it for each of the sides afterwards. So here you can see I will be first inserting the blue wire, then the red, then the yellow into here. And you can see that these are kind of keyed as well, so it's hard to fuck up. Like that. So now that all these are inserted all the way, I can close this. And now I can plug a 3-pin in to the 3-pin here. And you can also see that there are 4-pin connectors on the MK6 harness, and those obviously go to the 4 wires coming off of the outer taillights. The 3 pins come from the inner taillights. So yeah. Now the upper tails are all connected. I have the 12-volt connected. I haven't moved the fuse. I have to run these 2 wires all the way up here to the junction point, integrate those into the harness, and I believe I should be good. There might be one other step. I don't know what happens with this, but yeah. And so what I did to run this cable through the body is I went through, there's a hole here. You can see there's a hole right here. So there's this gap, and then you can go in. Just moving that off the paint. And then you can see down here, literally right there. Let's see if we can get a better view. Maybe not. But like right here, there's a gap, so you can feed a zip tie from above and then finger it and bring it out through that hole and then
use a zip tie to bring it up. Super, super easy. So now I'm gonna pin this connector. Do the same thing on that side. And I think I might be able to try it out. So yeah, you can see going through that hole, got the wires taped. And I have a zip tie coming out. You can kind of see the zip tie is where it's originating, and I will just feed them through. So easy money. So here you can see I've wrapped the connector, and here's the pigtail. So this should be able to go right into the taillight. So this is ready for taillight installation, which I have over there.
And so technically I did lie. There was one thing in the way of installing this, and there's an extra keyway on the Euro tails that is not on the harness connectors. Some harnesses do have connectors that account for this, but there was this keyway. You can see it in this photo as well. I'll point it out, this wonderful arrow. But it's just a plastic keyway that you need to remove. So pretty simple to remove that. What I did, since it was the new taillight, I used a chisel. You can kind of see it chipped away from it here. Might not be as clear, but in this following photo, you can see again the keyway from a top level view, and then I'll show another image of me removing it. And yeah, you can see here I just used a wood chisel to kind of peel away and get rid of that plastic so I could install the connector. So that's something I faced installing this harness.
So the fuse box is down here, and I need to move fuse 52. So both tails have been reinstalled. I haven't put the top caps on yet. I'm beginning to tuck the wires up. So all the wiring is done except for the last wire. There's this one wire with 2 red ends. I'm going to take it off. I had to fish it back through. It comes off. I believe this wire, or it comes off kind of the junction right here. It's a single wire, and it's a signal that goes to the center brake light. And I believe it is for the purposes of having the brake lights on while, or the turn signal's on while it's braking. So it gives the signal, because I guess there's not enough signal wires. It seems like these tails, and I don't know 100% because I should have taken better videos, but it seems like these tails, the stock ones, actually, when you have the blinker on, the brake light goes out. But anyway, point is, you need to pull from that wire because of that, because it doesn't have the signal wires in the stock location. So I just pulled that. I had to pull it upwards, while the other 2 I pulled downwards. And again, zip tie, tuck tape, and a little bit, and I mean a little bit, of my liquid magic. So I'm going to plug this in, and then we're going to test these out and do a dry run. So what I'm doing now is I'm reinstalling the trim panels. I reinstalled the grommets. You can see I'm routing the wires. I'm just using zip ties near each attachment point to the body, right above, so that holds the zip tie and it holds it with the stock harness. I just have to punch back this, put the push pin back into this trim piece, and put these trim pieces on, and then the taillights are done.
So if it's not already obvious, the install was a huge success. The taillights work awesome and look awesome. I had a small glitch with the wiring on the driver's side taillight, as I mentioned previously, but that was resolved quite easily. I'd just forgotten to plug a wire in that gave it the dynamic signal. But yeah, other than that, my review of the taillights 1 year later is that they're awesome. I would say that even though they're clear, I was worried that they'd be less clear to other people on the road, but I would argue that they're clearer just because the red LEDs are much brighter. Also, the amber turn signal is much clearer to other people. Other than that, I've had no other issues or glitches. I had to do no VCDS coding for this harness. I've had no codes thrown or no other weird errors or electrical gremlins following the install of these taillights. And the beauty is that it's completely reversible with none of my harness spliced into, none of my harness touched. And yeah, my experience with this has been awesome, and I would completely recommend it. I ended up importing these taillights myself and buying the harness separately, and I think that's the cheapest way to get the European look on your car. Obviously, the install for these is exactly the same as red Euro tails, because these are OEM taillights. And yeah, that's my commentary on that. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I hope this helps someone. And thank you very much for watching my video, and also thank you for 1,000 subscribers. I recently reached that, and I am not a serious YouTuber, so I'm very happy about that. So yeah, thanks for watching.